Welcome. Today, we're diving into mental awareness and what it means to observe your thoughts instead of automatically believing them. Because sometimes the loudest thoughts aren't the truest ones. And this one shift, awareness, can change everything. Take a moment to pause. Let your breath come in gently through your nose and out through your mouth. Allow yourself to land in this moment. Feel your body, notice your breath, and bring your awareness inward. Have you ever wondered why certain thoughts repeat in your mind? Or why you react the way you do in certain situations, even when you don't want to? What if most of what you think isn't even yours anymore? What if it was absorbed long ago and you're still living by its script without realizing it? Let's start with some clarity around language we use when talking about our inner experience. The brain is a physical organ, the control center of the body. It regulates everything from breathing to heartbeat to problem solving and emotion. It's responsible for thinking, feeling, movement, and storing memories. It also processes sensory input and helps maintain internal balance or homeostasis. But the mind is different. The mind is the experience of the brain's activity. It's intangible. You can't hold it or scan it. It's your awareness, your beliefs, your internal dialogue. You can think of the brain as the hardware and the mind as a software. They're interconnected, but they're not the same. Now, let's go a little deeper into what some traditions call the mental body. The mental body isn't a physical thing either. It's an energetic layer made up of thoughts, beliefs, patterns, and mental habits. It's where your internal programming lives. And it influences how you perceive the world, how you interpret events, and how you respond to life. I want to share how the mind works in 3 levels: conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. The conscious mind is where you think, reason, and make active decisions. It's what you're aware of. It's also the only level of the mind where real-time choice exists. The conscious mind is where you engage with the present moment and apply logic, reason, and intention. It can override a subconscious pattern, but only if there's awareness. It's your conscious mind that chooses to pause, to reflect, and to try something new instead of reacting from habit. It's also the gatekeeper that determines whether you'll accept or reject a new belief. This is why awareness is so powerful. Without it, the subconscious mind continues to run the show. The subconscious mind, it stores your routines, defense mechanisms, and automatic responses, many of which were formed in early childhood or emotionally intense moments. It's responsible for running much of your life on autopilot, acting as the background operating system that drives up to 95% of your behavior each day. 95%. That's a lot. It's the part of the mind that bridges your conscious experiences and your unconscious drivers. While the conscious mind is selective and intentional, the subconscious is habitual and responsive. It stores emotional memories, learned behaviors, and internalized beliefs, especially the ones repeated over time or learned under emotional intensity. The subconscious isn't logical. It's efficient. It conserves mental energy by creating shortcuts, habits, and pattern responses. These include things like brushing your teeth, checking your phone, or how you react when someone gives you feedback. It also includes deeper behavioral patterns, how you respond to conflict, how safe you feel expressing emotions, or whether you trust yourself to succeed. It doesn't think critically. It obeys what has been repeated or emotionally charged. Let me repeat that. It obeys what has been repeated or emotionally charged. One practical way to understand the subconscious mind is to think of it like the autopilot setting on a plane. Once programmed, the autopilot takes over and flies the route without needing constant input. If the course is off, even slightly, the plane will continue in the wrong direction unless a conscious correction is made. The same is true for your mind. If your subconscious is programmed with a limiting belief, you'll keep making decisions and forming patterns based on those beliefs until you bring conscious awareness to the programming and reset the path. Here's a real life example. Imagine someone who was constantly criticized for being too loud or too much as a child. Over time, their subconscious mind may store the belief, I need to tone myself down to be accepted. As an adult, they may find themselves staying quiet in meetings, hesitating to post on social media, or even struggling to speak up in relationships without fully understanding why. These aren't conscious choices. They're subconscious patterns rooted in old programming, quietly guiding behavior. The unconscious mind, it holds primal instincts, suppressed emotions, and unresolved memories. Often from early life or trauma that have been buried because they were too overwhelming or too painful to process at the time. These can include deep fears inherited family patterns, or even generational beliefs. This is the mind's deepest layer. Vast, mysterious, and largely inaccessible through everyday thought. It contains the things we don't know we don't know. These may include instincts formed through evolution, early survival responses, or core wounds we've never processed. The unconscious is also where repressed emotions, ancestral patterns, and unresolved trauma reside. While hidden, it's not inactive. It drives the emotional tone, physical sensations, dreams, and even compulsions. It can show up as chronic tension in the body, a persistent fear you can't explain, or unexpected resistance to doing something you consciously want. Bringing unconscious material into awareness can create deep healing, but often it requires patience, gentleness, and guidance. The unconscious mind is more like a vault of buried experiences, instinctual survival patterns, and repressed material. Useful for protection, not necessarily for insight. One way you can think of the unconscious mind is to picture an iceberg. The small tip above the water represents the conscious mind. Just below the surface lies a much larger subconscious, still accessible, often unnoticed. And then deep below, hidden from view, is the unconscious. It shapes the ocean currents of your life from the depths, influencing your behavior, relationships, and even physical health, without you seeing its hand in your life. Here's a real life example. Imagine someone who constantly avoids deep connection in relationships. Even though they deeply crave love, they may feel anxiety or a need to withdraw the moment intimacy increases. Consciously, they want closeness. Subconsciously, they might carry abandonment fears. But unconsciously, they may be carrying a buried belief formed from early trauma, like being left alone in infancy or experiencing unpredictable care, that deep down, love equals danger. These buried beliefs shape emotional tone and reactions without the person ever consciously knowing where they came from. So, is this where wisdom lives? Not exactly. The unconscious mind is that protective vault. It holds what we weren't ready to face. It shapes us, but it doesn't speak in clarity. It speaks in patterns, reactions, dreams, and impulses. It needs translation. Wisdom lives in integration. When we begin to observe the subconscious patterns, shine the light on the unconscious shadows, and stay present in the conscious mind, that's where wisdom can begin to arise. And what about that quiet inner knowing? That knowing often lives in the space beneath it all. It's not something the mind constructs, but something we remember. You might call it intuition, alignment, or soul guidance. We'll explore this deeper when we move into spiritual awareness. It whispers when we get still enough to hear it. But the good news, you can become aware of these filters. You can shift them. Now, let's take a moment to talk about the ego, how it forms, why it matters, and how it shapes the mental body. From the ages of around 2 to 7, this is where the ego formation begins. We develop a sense of I and start attaching meaning to experiences. At this stage, everything is personal. If something painful happens, the child often believes it's my fault. Beliefs like I'm bad, I'm not enough, or I'm not safe take root easily here. And then from ages 8 to early 20s, the ego strengthens and becomes more externally focused. We begin measuring our worth by achievement, approval, appearance, and comparison. The ego starts craving validation and avoiding rejection. Then somewhere in your 20s to 40s, the ego peaks in this stage. We build identities, careers, relationships, families, public images. Success is often defined by doing and status. The ego becomes the main driver in decision-making, usually without us even realizing it. Then, in your 40s to 60s, for many, this is when the ego gets cracked open. A loss, a betrayal, a shift. We start asking bigger questions. Who am I beyond the roles I've played? This stage is often the beginning of healing, reevaluation, and softening. And then the 60s and beyond, or earlier with awareness, we begin to transcend ego, not by eliminating it, but by observing it. You no longer are your thoughts or titles. You see them, you witness them, you decide what's true. Let's pause for a moment. The earlier you begin practicing awareness, the sooner you can catch and shift belief systems that no longer serve you. And that awareness may then be passed on to our younger ones. Imagine if at age 7, someone sat you down and said, just because you think something doesn't make it true. And just because you feel something doesn't mean it defines you. Imagine being guided to pause and ask yourself, is this feeling a signal? Or is it a story I've picked up? That kind of emotional and mental literacy early on could have completely reshaped how you responded to challenges, relationships, and your own inner voice. When awareness is introduced early, we're more likely to address limiting beliefs before they take deep root. But even as adults, we can return to those moments of programming and rewrite them. This is where limiting beliefs come into play and why mental awareness matters so much. These beliefs, often formed early and stored subconsciously, can still be running the show today, but they don't have to. Let's explore how they form, how they show up, and how you can begin to recognize and shift them. From the moment we're born, our minds are wide open, like sponges without filters. From birth to around age 7, we live mostly in a brainwave state called theta, which is similar to a constant state of hypnosis. We absorb everything: how we're treated, what's said to us, what isn't said, and what we witness in the behaviors of others. At this stage, we don't have reasoning skills to question what we're taking in. So everything becomes personal and everything feels true. If a parent leaves, if love is withheld, if we're scolded for expressing emotion, those moments get etched into our subconscious. We don't think mom is overwhelmed or dad is going through something. Instead, we internalize it as something is wrong with me. I'm not lovable. And that becomes a core belief. If your dad left when you were 3, your little self doesn't think, dad is navigating adult issues. No, that 3-year-old thinks, something is wrong with me. I'm not lovable. He left because I wasn't enough. It's not the event that shapes you. It's the meaning your mind makes of the event. And once those beliefs are in place, they often live in your subconscious and start running your life on autopilot. We repeat patterns because the mental body keeps echoing what it believes to be true. Something is wrong with me. I am not lovable. I am not enough. That becomes the vibration you send out into the world. Those belief systems can make you a really hard worker, doing everything you can to fix what's wrong with you. You try to make yourself lovable, earn praise for being a good student, a good athlete, a good daughter, son, partner, mother, father, and so on. You push harder and harder, becoming outwardly successful in your quest to be enough. But unless you become aware of and actively rewire these limiting beliefs, you'll never feel like you've arrived. That inner feeling of being broken, unlovable, or not enough doesn't just go away because you've checked all the boxes. There's no lasting peace until the belief itself is healed. But if you're willing to face the darkness and call out what no longer serves you and do the work, the rewards are limitless. So, how do we begin to uncover these beliefs? Awareness starts with curiosity. Start by noticing your emotional reactions. especially those that feel outsized, repetitive, or confusing. These are often breadcrumbs pointing towards a deeper belief. Ask yourself, what might this be connected to? When have I felt this way before? Track your triggers. When do you feel dismissed, unseen, rejected, or not good enough? The stronger the emotional charge, the more likely it ties to a subconscious belief. Triggers are not random. They're unhealed memories asking for your attention. A good way to start bringing your attention to what is unhealed within you is to use reflective journaling. After a difficult moment, write down what happened, how you felt, and what story you told yourself about it. For example, they didn't text me back. Ask yourself, what did that make me feel? What did I make it mean? Perhaps the hidden belief is, I'm not important. Then ask, where did I learn that? And is it actually true? Notice patterns of self-sabotage. Do you find yourself pulling away from people who treat you well? Do you procrastinate on what things you say you want? That resistance may not be laziness. It may be the subconscious trying to preserve a familiar identity. Observe repetitive narratives. Do you constantly think, I don't belong? I always mess things up. Nothing ever works out for me. These inner scripts didn't come out of nowhere. They were absorbed, and they can be rewritten. The more light you bring to these patterns, the more power you gain, not by force, but by awareness. If the subconscious belief is, I am unworthy, then even when something good shows up, a healthy relationship, a new opportunity, a moment of peace, you might unconsciously sabotage it. Not because you don't want it, but because it doesn't match the identity your mind believes is true. The mind seeks coherence. When your inner program doesn't match your outer reality, it tries to close the gap, often by pulling you back into familiar pain. This is why change feels so hard. It's not just about effort. It's about identity. These limiting beliefs become filters. They shape how we see ourselves, how we interpret the world, and how we show up in relationships. Until we become aware, they continue to define what we believe we're capable of. Because of this programming, we often subconsciously choose what is familiar, even if it's unhealthy, or over what's actually in our highest good. Familiarity feels safe to the subconscious mind, even when it's painful. So we may stay in toxic relationships, avoid opportunities, or repeat sabotaging behaviors, not because we want to suffer, but because the discomfort feels more predictable than the unknown of change. This is how powerful the pull of programming can be. So take a moment here to reflect. What is something in your life right now that feels familiar, but not necessarily healthy? Is there a pattern, relationship, or habit that you keep choosing, even though a part of you knows it's not in your highest good? You don't need to judge it. Just notice it. Let that awareness be the first light you shine on a belief that may be ready to shift. The moment you become aware of a belief, you're no longer bound by it. You've created space. And in that space, you can choose something new. This is an invitation. After all the reflection and inner uncovering, here is where the practice begins. To move from being your mind to observing your mind. When you observe, you create space. And in that space, choice is born. Instead of, I am anxious, you begin to say, I notice anxiety here. Instead of, I am unworthy, you ask, where did this come from? Do I want to keep it? This is the beginning of the shift from reaction to reflection, from autopilot to conscious presence. Here are a few tools to help you build mental awareness. Journaling. Let your thoughts flow without judgment. When you see them on the page, you start to see the pattern. Once you see it, you can change it. A powerful shift in journaling can happen when you begin with a single word. This is what I did. Try choosing a word like love, relatability, respect, or friendship. Let your writing flow from there. Let your mind explore all the ways that word shows up, what it means to you, how you experience it. This kind of word-based journaling can help break repetitive patterns and lift you out of victim mode journaling, where you rehash the same stories, where you complain, where you want people to do things differently. It opens up a new layer of insight and personal authorship. Another good practice to increase your conscious awareness, labeling. When thoughts arise, try to name them. That's fear. Oh, that's ego. That's old programming. This simple act creates a separation between you and the thought. You can also practice putting a name to your emotions. Go beyond just fear or sad or happy. Try to describe the flavor, the tone, the intensity. Is it sharp, dull, fluttery, stuck? Is it embarrassment or is it shame? Is it pressure in your chest, a fog in your head? This kind of emotional granularity helps the mind process and the body release what's been held. The more precise the language, the more empowered the awareness. And this is one of my favorites, as you know. Pause and breathe. Use the breath as a pattern interrupt. The pause is everything. It's the moment you step off the conveyor belt of old thoughts and patterns. Even one conscious breath is enough to break momentum and invite awareness in. The pause becomes the doorway where reactivity softens and presence returns. Another great tool, self-inquiry. Ask yourself, is this true? Or is this just familiar? You might even ask, is this even mine? Because many beliefs aren't. And if it's not true or no longer serves you, go deeper. What is true? What is in my highest good? This is where transformation begins. Not in having the answer, but in having the courage to ask the questions that invite clarity. Here's an affirmation for you. I have the power to question what I've been carrying, to release what no longer serves me, and to choose beliefs that support who I truly am. Mental awareness doesn't mean shutting down thoughts. It means becoming curious about them, inviting them in, sit down with them, and asking what they're here to show you. It's the difference between being swept away by the current of your mind and learning how to wade in it with steadiness. Let this episode be your reminder. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who sees them. And from that place of awareness, everything can shift. So, I'll leave you with this question. What thought or belief might you be carrying that doesn't actually belong to you anymore? You don't have to fix it all today. You just have to notice. And when you do, when you pause, observe, breathe, and name it, it's not just awareness you're building. It's self-trust. It's sovereignty. It's healing. Our shift has ended for today, but your journey continues. Until next time.